Greetings, friends. Monday, the 29th of April. I just landed here in Albuquerque about an hour and a half ago, driving down from Loveland, Colorado, I think it was. We were there last night and the night before, doing a gig yesterday with a wonderful group of people who'd come from the region in order to listen to my wheezing for about 3 or 4 hours. This is a social tour that I'm on at the moment, which is really more connected to the New Earth project than anything else. It's called Catch Me If You Can. We have a few more dates. I'll announce those a little bit later. I think we do Albuquerque tomorrow night, which is the 30th of April. And then in a couple of days, we're doing, we go from here to Atlanta in 4 days later, doing a show with Tim Ray there. And then after that, we'll be headed to Tennessee, where I'll be doing a pretty spectacular announcement. Following Tennessee, we'll be in Ohio with Scott McKay and Dr. I think Sherry Tenpenny and a bunch of the great and good, the Dirty Dozen. A number of the frontliners from the Arise Resurrection Tour are going to be there as well on the stage. Looking forward to catching up with my friends. And I'll have Kathy O'Brien with me, traveling with me on the road for a few days. I think she's joining me in Atlanta. And we'll travel for a few days. We might do some live drops together there. And then finishing up in 3 gigs, I think we've got in Florida, ending in Tampa on I think the last gig is on the 17th of May, but technically the golden ticket announcement that I'm making is going to be on the last day of Atonement, which I believe is the 18th. So 19th of May is really when I'm kicking back to Europe, by way of Mexico City. So the next Lazarus Symposium, I'm not quite sure where I'll be. I think I'll be in, Bucharest, probably this time next month. In any event, you catch me if you can. I'm here to answer today a handful of questions that Christy, my producer, is fielding from Lazarus members. And anyone who want to throw any rocks or boomerangs at me, now is the time. Let me just change the thing, one moment. Let me bring Christy in. Christy, there you go. Nice to see you. You'll need to unmute your microphone. You're going to be asking questions, I think, that have come through. Right.
So you want to start right up with the Q&A. Okay, so just to, normally we do this just intimately with Lazarus, but since we're on tour, we're getting a little creative. And I'm not sure if you know, Sacha, but we're having a separate Q&A with Dave Emery tomorrow for just the Lazarus Gold and Silver, to give them a little extra.
I didn't know. I see he's usurping my throne in Lazarus Central. Well, see if I care. I'll be here with Dr. Nancy Ash, and we'll happily look in and throw some rocks at Dave. So there you go.
That would be fantastic. Okay, so should I just start straight away then?
Well, you can do. I mean, I'm not sure if I've omitted to say anything. You'll have to forgive me. I have 5 hours of driving this morning and getting here just in time to have a lunch with Nancy and Swami G, her husband. So I'm a little bit rattled, but crack on. Let's see if I can just parachute in.
Okay, so a question from Denmark is asking, where do you think or feel our world will be in 2027, 2028? At the top, with old structures falling, and how established do you think the new Earth grid will be at that time, and how will it mirror the external world?
So really great question. I've gone on the record a few times in the last few months speaking to information that's come to me from the most trusted sources that I know, that 2027 is likely to see a geoseismic event of unheralded proportion. And I'm not a cataclysmist or a catastrophist in the usual sense. I don't speak up apocalypse or Armageddon. I tend to avoid prognostications that have that kind of negative dateline. I just don't want to go there because I don't think it's helpful for us to project and put attention on these prospects, which is why I've never really been into Nostradamus prophecies or any of the prophets, in point of fact, because my foundational take is that the actualized human being, and that's you and me in the now, are the ones who write the script if we are in sufficient possession of coherence. of our immanence, of our divine spirit, then we always have the preserve or the privilege to overwrite any apocalyptic narrative. So for sure, there are fated lines and predestined lines, so-called timelines. I despise that notion, but so-called timelines that are predestined or fated to occur without any question of doubt. And so when a hook-nosed gypsy or a great sage or a bushman in the Kalahari throw the bones, somebody scrying or looking into the crystal ball, so to speak, can variously see these preeminent timelines or narrative timelines that appear in ghostly fashion. And a scryer or an oracle will invariably speak to what they're seeing, because that's the collective beam that we're projecting ahead of ourselves, as a genus, as a plane of existence. And then they will speak to them, codify them, write them down, and embellish them. And then they become more concretized in the zeitgeist. So to me, it's a dangerous thing, prophecy. I know that I have personally, as have probably millions of people, prophesied events and things. I've been on the record on a number of occasions doing so because I've been wheezing for long enough on social media. But, you throw enough shit at the wall and some of it's going to stick. So there's also that you have to factor in to this. But when I'm looking at 2027 and 2028, I am informed by reliable sources that there's going to be a geoseismic event that is likely to devastate the east coast of the United States and will stem from the Bahamas, essentially. But that event is going to be the catalyzing event that brings humanity together, so to speak, in 2028. As we all know, you have a car crash, or you have a near-death experience, or your beloved dies or passes on. These are cataclysmic events at the personal level. And a near-death experience or losing one's beloved or somebody you love deeply does explode the heart center. It opens us up. It destroys hubris, pride, false light, and we're reduced to gibbering emotional wrecks, bleeding hearts, which is foundationally what we are as good humans. And in a sense, the buildup of the false light matrix, so to speak, the Luciferian age that it's reaching its fulmination, and we're now looking to exit that Luciferic cycle of the great sleep. In a sense, it makes a great deal of sense that we're going to face a collective cataclysmic event of some order of magnitude that is going to be the Great Awakening. Now, the COVID scam was a perfect, predictively programmed Saturnian, satanic, Luciferic event. In that sense, it was orchestrated, and it created the orchestration of it is now manifesting an event horizon. So collectively, we abdicated our collective conscience, right, sufficiently to allow a massacre to occur amongst ourselves, and to allow for this insane fiction called government, and even worse, global governance like the United Nations, the World Health Organization. We allowed that insane proposition to emerge in the field as the overarching principle that governs our fate. And because we did that, we are going to needfully suffer to some extent the consequence of abdicating our collective conscience. We can't avoid that. How is that going to land? Well, it's like most things. You throw the boomerang and there's a period of time, then it comes back and hits you in the back of the head if you weren't mindful. And in a sense, that's what we've set ourselves up for. at the collective level. And that's before we even address things like the last 500 years of mass blood sacrifice and genocide against the black skin, brown skin, red skin, yellow skin peoples and white skin peoples of the world, allowing the Sabbatean Vatican complex to infiltrate our lives and conflate into this thing called government, which is really one parent corporation masquerading as government. And all of that has usurped our divinity as sons and daughters of God. And we've abdicated and abnegated our soul sovereignty to a great extent. We've taken the knee to Caesar. We continue to offer up coin to Caesar, which pays for a blood economy and the sacrifice of innocence on the other side of the planet. And so that cycle continues. And that's the point. So we've permissioned this. We have to now apparently encounter a collective near-death experience in order to shake the tree. And that's going to happen one way or the other. Now, that leads to 2028. And you know, again, we've got some very serious and consequential military intelligence advising that this year is going to be another lockdown, and it's going to be some kind of Marshall provision. It's going to be, you know, global financial reset, which if it doesn't happen through coaxing, it's going to happen through some orchestration of heinous events that force us all again into COVID 2.0, lockdowns and you know, travel bans and the imposition of multilateral governments on our streets. So that one way or the other, we're in for a reckoning. The reckoning is still continuing. My sense is that 2025, next year, is going to and how we conduct and comport ourselves collectively, which is to say individually, is going to determine how that coin lands, because it's flicked in the air. Now, this year, 2024, the coin is flicked in the air. Without any question of doubts, that's where we stand right now. And where that coin lands, let's say by midpoint central sun of 2025, is likely to determine the outcome as to whether it's going to be a soft landing or a hard landing. That's my takeaway. That 2028 is going to be when we truly see the repercussion or the consequence of all that's gone before. Now, from 2028 onwards, that's when it becomes interesting to my mind. It becomes a far more peaceable and beautiful journey, trajectory for our planet and for humanity as a whole. So I'll leave it at that, because I could extrapolate forward and go into 2030, 2032, and then 2046, because those two, to my mind, are signature nodes that we are facing before we hit what I regard as the vertical ascension event.
Okay, I was seeing in the comments, Maggie was asking about the access code for the ladder segments. And I just want to tell Maggie that I resent the email. And for anyone who's interested, the email was sent yesterday. So there are two emails. It might be a little confusing, but the access code is there. And it's also on the member dashboard. I wanted to bring up another comment that came in early, Sacha, about the eclipse being a hoax. And if you might want to speak to that, because there's a lot of, I think, disconnect between expecting some huge event to happen at that exact moment versus as a transitionary moment.
So why don't I, do you think it might be appropriate for me just to run the video of the total eclipse, that event that I did where I was in the zone of silence? Because
sure.
many people might not have seen it. And I think that if I played that short film, it's not very long, but I think it'll set the stage for the question. Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Okay, let me share screen. I think the way I have to do it is this. Stand by. Okay, stand by. I'll drop Christy and I out. And just a word out here to members of the Stone Band. my band and my producer Phil Brown and Shiro of the last album we did, the Cover the Sun album, I did take the liberty, my friends, of putting one of our tracks from the last album I ever did onto the front end of this little film, because I thought it was appropriate, and because it's a pretty song that I wrote many years ago. It was the last part of the last album I recorded with the Stone Band, and I just thought, hey, why the hell not? So thanks, guys. In that direction. Oh, and tell me, dunes. Tell me. There's a camp there, correct? I've just received a phone call, Christy, saying that there was no sound. Is that right, friends? I'm really sorry.
We're all trying to call you.
That is so stupid. I'm so sorry, guys. Okay, should I spin it again, or am I going to bore people? Okay, I'm going to look at the first. I'm going to look at the first 3 public comments that come, and if you say you want me to play it again, I'll play it again. Play it again. I got sound now. Play it again. I know what it is, guys. As Christy and I have to stay in the studio whilst it's playing. So I'll cue it back, bring it in, And please apologize. Now I can't go out for a cigarette because I have to stay on camera. That's what I was doing. So please forgive me. All right, I'll play it again from here. Christy, give me a thumbs up if you're hearing the audio now.
Too many times I've touched on Eden. The rivers run with virgin tears. Every time I almost succeeded, 'cause every time it disappeared. I've been down this road before, and I have lived 10 times or more. Walked on the soil of foreign shores, till I can't walk on anymore. Get up, mama, get up, don't give me freedom. Get up, mama, get up, and can you stop the bleeding? Get up, mama, get up, don't give me freedom. No, just give me love. Give me love. Give me love. You talk about my muddy vision. You ask about my mama's age. I can almost taste your inhibition. Spit it out, child. Given time, you're bound to grace the stage. I've been drifting to the door, till I can't see your face at all. Now settle down, you get no prize for just giving your heart, child. Now welcome to the rain, where the best men crawl. Get up, mama, get up, don't give me freedom. All I ever want. Get up, mama, get up, and can you stop the bleeding? All I ever want. Get up, mama, get up, and don't give me freedom. No, just give me love. Give me love. Give me love. Give me love.
Right, so we're rolling video. Let the record reflect, friends, that this is Dr. Alex Ling's idea in the first instance. And we're with this remarkable Mexican here, my beloved friend Ricardo.
Hey.
And we're headed now into the dunes in that direction. And the dunes, there's a camp there, correct?
There's a camp, yes.
And folks there who interact with the extraterrestrial dimensions and UFOs and what have you. So we're on our way to the dunes. We're driving off-road right now. By the grace of God, we'll get there.
Of course you're gonna.
A divine intervention.
Once you're through the
Falling
stars. This area?
in this area.
Yeah, because this area has a magnetic field.
Yeah.
And so the
Come on.
You did it!
Oh, well done, little man.
He's gonna sleep well.
It's okay, it's okay.
Haz conciencia. Y si no recuerdas, también pide perdón.
Even if you remember what you did, beg for pardon, beg for the forgiveness. Because right now is the time, because we're going to left all we knew as this world with all these crazy things. all the polarity is gone. Polarity is gone. We have to understand that we're here to get the perfect balance of polarities.
So there'd been cloud cover all day, for a couple of days leading up to this, actually, which in that part of the world, in Mexico, is unheard of, unseen. But apparently it was geoengineering, setting up cloud cover so the eclipse couldn't be visible. But the shaman there was conducting a ceremony to punch a hole through the clouds. And this little venture was headed up by Dr. Alex Ling, who's the most remarkable man, if anyone's seen the stuff I've done with him.
Okay, are you all ready?
Oh, yes. Go for it.
Okay, let's hum.
So that sky was clearing and we saw a perfect eclipse above. So just to go back to the story line there, it was what we were doing was essentially positioning ourselves directly at the epicenter of where that total eclipse was reaching was in its maximum, which was 4 minutes 28.1 seconds. And during that 4 minutes 28.1 seconds, we were putting a human hum, so to speak, into the center of the earth in that If you know what the zone of silence is, it's like the epicenter, the paramagnetic epicenter of the Earth, certainly as it relates to that total eclipse, which was predicted, I think, 14,000 years ago, and which by best reckoning was the most important astronomical event in, I said 5,000 years, but it was actually 7,000 years, according to Dr. Alex Ling. Anyway, the subject is very, Christy, put the banner on, please. The subject matter is very esoteric, to be sure, very esoteric indeed. And people can make of it what they will. I have taken these kinds of datelines and event horizons very seriously, because it is my conviction that the Babylonian priesthood, so to speak, have always used these kinds of pulse points or nodes in order to conduct, let's say, black magic or controlling magic, to cast the dream spells. We know this is true because we know that the meridia of the Earth, the energetic vortices and the ley lines, so to speak, the so-called chakra points of the Earth have always historically, archaeohistorically, been the utility of these invisible masters, Sabbateans, God Kings, whatever, Midnight Masons, whatever you want to call it. They've been the utility of these unseen forces in order to capture the angelic human. Be clear about that. That's what we're talking about. And I'm talking about the rainbow tribe human, black skin, brown skin, red skin, yellow skin, and white skin. We're all in it together in that sense. And we've all been harvested into the sacrificial cycles and great yugas of time and rinse cycles, which plays out at the cosmic level every bit as it does at the individual incarnational level, where we are, born to 70 years and 10, and then we die, make the stupid mistake of following the light at the end of the tunnel, get pulled back into a soul rinse cycle, so to speak, and keep coming back into the mortal realm until such time as we enlighten within this abyss, this cauldron of creation. And when we enlighten and self-actualize and attain so-called bodhisattva status, reconvention with God, which is what the message of the Master Jesus and the Siddhartha, Lord Buddha and Prophet Muhammad, peace upon him, Moses, all the prophets of ages and great avatars have always spoken to the same thing. We need to assume our divine mantle and step up to our truest destiny, which is sons and daughters of God, and thereby resurrect the angelic template and restore the kingdom of heaven on earth. So how do we do that? Well, first we observe reality. We witness it sufficiently in a psycho-emotionally disidentified state, sufficiently for us to actually get reality and not our interpretation of it, or not our projection against the mirror of reality. But we actually bear witness, take the throne of self, bear witness with no judgment, and that's where the no judgment bit comes in. And then when we bear witness correctly, we move into coherence. We can now merge with our divine mantle and become the arbiters and the determiners of the outcome. And that's ultimately where we're at the threshold right now at the collective level. We are at the threshold of collectively determining the outcome, i.e., moving into the ascension spiral at the end of time. So that's why we went to the zone of silence. It was not an easy journey getting there, I can tell you. We went there to position ourselves bodily there and to participate in a correct ceremonial engagement, which was to restore into central sun, the inner earth, so to speak, to restore the human quanta, the angelic human quanta. So many people were making the mistake, in my view, of celebrating the eclipse and going to parties and festivals and things. And I think that was a silly folly. I really do. Dropping fucking acid or whatever and looking at the eclipse through dark glasses and having a party is a Babylonian fiesta. And that is precisely what we were doing, worshiping at the golden calf at the foot of Mount Sinai. thousands of years ago. It's a folly. We're not supposed to be either fearful of the eclipses or celebratory. We're supposed to use that disconnect from the central sun, so to speak. We're supposed to use that moment to withdraw our attention, our God-given plasma, into the inner sun, the central sun, the true central sun, the immanent flame, which is where the angelic template is resurrected, provided we've moved into coherence with it. And that's why a bunch of shaman scientists, myself, my crew went there to participate in that on that day. Now, to those who know the mathematics and the geometry of that date, the 8th of April 2024, you'll know that it corresponded with the Nineveh line being drawn across North America by the trajectory of the sun, of the eclipse. Now, the last total eclipse over North America did the Salem line, passing over 7 towns called Salem. This one went over 7 towns called Nineveh. So the ancients and the founding fathers of America, the Masonic elites, knew exactly what they were doing by naming 7 towns Salem and 7 towns Nineveh that would map the trajectory of the 2 eclipses in 2017 and 2024, creating the symbol of Alpha Omega on North America. You go now to biblical prophecy, and you see that biblical prophecy speaks to the hand of God, or the signature of God being writ upon the face of North America. And that augurs the sign of the onset of the 40 days of atonement that need to follow. Before what? Before the rapture / revelation kicks off. And that's what that was all about. And so the 40 days of atonement is connected also to Jonah and the whale. Jonah swallowed by the whale for 3 days and nights, then running to Nineveh and alerting the denizens of Nineveh that there were 40 days of atonement that needed to be undertaken in order to avoid absolute cataclysm at that time. So that's the old apocryphal story. It was repeated in an echo now, and we're living through it right now. With the 29th of April, the 40 days of atonement ends on the 19th of May. What does that mean? It probably means that the reset is going to be triggered on the 19th of May. It probably means that any shenanigans we're likely to see kick off at that point. Time will tell. We'll see soon enough. But for my part, I take this stuff seriously. And I began my little social tour here, my Catch Me If You Can social tour in America, meeting with Lazarus members and New Earth members across the country, just to literally sit in living rooms and talk to people and get feedback up until the 40th day of atonement, which is 19th of May, when I'll be out. And I wanted to do it in homage. This is how I conduct my own ceremony or mindfulness, is just being aware that great big bold brushstrokes are being made by invisible masters that define our lives, our reality, our world. And I am laying claim, as are many good humans, to the resurrection of the angelic template. It's on me to embody, enact, and manifest where I can the counterpoint geometry to that Saturnian, satanic, Luciferian nonsense, because we've come of age. Have we not, my friends? And I can see thousands of you here in this room, and many, many hundreds, if not thousands of comments coming through. So yes, we are legion, and we are here. We've arrived, and we're not going to take the coin to Caesar any longer. We're not going to render unto Caesar what Caesar says is his. We understand that Caesar is a somewhat diabolical mortal proxy of the ancient god kings. And the ancient god kings were progenesis bloodlines connected to with the divine right to rule, blah, blah, all of that shit, connected to the angry, jealous gods of old, who were, in a sense, let's say, the extraterrestrial elements that came into this world from out there, hybridizing with us Adamites, us, the sons and daughters of God. This is our world. What they didn't get, don't understand, couldn't understand, because they lack foundational empathy, where us stupid mammals, us Adamite humans, good humans, we have empathy, we have compassion, we have love, the capacity to love and be loved. So we are foundationally connected to God, to source, never left. We have that in the Jacob's ladder of our DNA. And that is why the parent corporation, the satanic elements, have tried to infiltrate our mRNA DNA through vaccine programs and synthetic molecule intervention in our air, water, and soil, and the dream spell of Hollywood and academia and hundreds of years of dominion and mindfuckery. So that's good. That's all happened. That's all part of the great trial of separation. But I repeat, here we are today, 29th of April, 2024, in the Babylonian calendar. And personally, I have no interest in pursuing time any longer, or the Babylonian mythos. It is almost upon us now, the time where we declare outright sovereignty and jurisdiction, and a return of the Christed ones. The kingdom of heaven on earth will prevail. It's already anchoring to this world as we speak, and that in God's good timing is going to reveal to us through this revelation, through this rapture that's upon us. And again, revelation and rapture, two sides of the same coin. One of them somewhat archaeohistorically orchestrated and engineered. Be careful of that one, people. Dogmatic Christians today are idolaters. Anyone who's stuck in dogma is conducting or perpetrating idolatry. Those who are entering into the living gospel and are putting themselves, like Daniel in the lion's den, following the dictate of conscience, of consciousness in action, and are defying the devil in our midst and moving against tyranny and dominion and standing up for what is right, and walking through the valley of death, the shadow of the valley of death, fearing no evil, because we are assuming that Christed mantle. This is our world. This becomes our world, and we are the meek who now inherit the earth.
Another question came in actually along sort of the same vein, in this idea of kind of splitting the community and taking a concept and maybe turning it into something totally different. Like Alan from New Zealand is asking about Nisara, Jasara, like what that means to you and how maybe it has been co-opted.
Okay. Yeah, I'll try to talk about that. I mean, I've spoken about it at such great length before, so I'm just a little bit apprehensive about boring people amongst my network here who've heard it 100 times and tired of hearing it, but I can speak momentarily to it. Nisara and Gara, National Economic, Social and Reform Act, or Global Economic, Social and Reform Act, which is what Nisara purportedly morphed into. Well, the founding scribe of Nisara, the National Economic, Social and Reform Act, was a woman called Shani Goodwin. Her code name was the Dove of Oneness. I'm one of the few people in the world who remember her. I met her. She came to England, flew to London to meet me about 20 odd years ago. My foundation, Humanitad, was conducting a fair amount of very, let's say, enigmatic diplomatic work behind the curtain, so to speak, especially amongst the royal houses of the Middle East and into North Africa, the Islamic world, essentially, which is where I was focusing my peace work and my peace diplomacy, to try to do my bit toward preventing the clash of civilizations, which had been planned for generations by the Draco reptilian Orion elements that infiltrated our world, certainly in the last 500 years, through the Vatican complex and the crowns of Europe, corrupting all that was good about this world and moving us into a blood economy. So this is an ancient story, but I certainly saw it in prophecy in the late 90s. 1997 was the first time I saw it in, I guess you would say, prophecy, in the state of prophecy. I saw that clash of civilizations was being orchestrated from within the Sabbatean basement, and that if those powers went unchecked, it would bring about absolute catastrophic failure of our world, because it would pit the Muslims against the Judeo-Christian mind and vice versa in a way that would be irretrievable, intractable. And I became possessed at that time, 97, 98, 99. I became possessed with this spirit of needing to get into that fight and do whatever needed to happen to prevent it. So for my part, I studied Islam very quickly. Not that I had an interest in Islam, but I figured that if I was going to get involved, I would have to, in the Middle East and North Africa, and sit down with the princes and the sheikhs and the imams, I would have to some extent, have to comport myself and understand what I was saying. So I feverishly studied up on Islam between 1997, 98, 99. And by 2000, I was actually somewhat expert at the time in the schools of Hanbali, Hanafi, and Maliki, and Shafi, the different schools of Islam, whereupon I was received by imams around the world. And I was eventually brought before the grand imam, the grand mufti, who at that time was Sheikh Salah al-Tantawi al-Azhar in Egypt. And when I was brought before him, who was the de facto Pope of Islam, one fine day, actually it was early one morning, and it was a pretty terrifying experience, because I'd been waiting for months for the audience, and a group of guys grabbed me in the morning, try to cut my hair off, pull the rings off my fingers, and hustle me in a car into the desert outside Cairo. I didn't know if I was being taken to be shot or what, but eventually I was taken to the Al-Azhar Mosque and brought before the Grand Mufti. And when I finally was brought before him, asked him, he wanted to know, a lot of men brandishing guns around him. And there I am in the minaret in the tower of the Al-Azhar Mosque, the oldest mosque on earth. And this little man in his little brown coat, immensely powerful, is asking in Arabic, what the devil do you want? Why are you're an infidel? Why are you lobbying so many political figures and military figures to be brought before me? What is it that you could possibly have to say? And the vice air marshal, who was next to me, pushed me forward, and I went and kissed the ring, and which I thought was the required protocol, whereupon he withdrew his hand very quickly and demanded to know what I wanted. And I asked a question. And my question was very simply, Your Holiness, does the religion of the human heart take precedence over the religion of Muhammad? Now, that was a very dangerous thing to say. And today, I don't think I'd have the nerve to say such a thing. He started shouting. I think it was even a scream. I mean, he was really shouting. And I thought, that's it. I've really fucked up now. And I rushed back to the other side where the security guys were. And the interpreter said to me, wait. No, it's good. It's good. It's good. And what it turned out that the Grand Mufti was remonstrating with everyone else in the room. And he was saying, this man here is a true Muslim, pointing to me. He's a true Muslim because he comes with courage and he asks the correct question. And the answer to his question is yes, the religion of the human heart takes precedence over all religion. And he said that makes this man a true Muslim because he understands the meaning of Islam, of surrender. And so you see, that's a cameo story of my own past. But just explaining to you that when you really dive into it and lean hard into it with the right question and with the right heart, it's like a lotus. It opens up and it presents to you such a benediction, such a gift. And I was then, as a result of being received by the Grand Mufti, many, many doors opened for me. And I was able to do some very substantial diplomatic work in bridging peace between the cultures and religions, so to speak, which led me ultimately to the president of Indonesia, Gusdur Abdurrahman Wahid, in a private meeting with him, where he eventually brought me to Bali. When he understood the work I was doing, Bali is just one island of Indonesia, which is the biggest Muslim nation on earth. And I continued my work from there. Christy, I've probably forgotten the gist of the question, but I hope that that story was meaningful to some folks.
No, yeah, for sure. It was just because it, like a lot of people saying it's been co-opted for quantum financial system type of stuff. But
okay, gotcha. Let me go back. So forgive me. Thank you for correcting me. So the point being, Nisara Gesara, I was asked by Shani Goodwin. I'm sorry, Christy. I was asked by Shani Goodwin, the Dove of Oneness, the author of Nisara Gesara, about 20 odd years ago. She flew to London to meet me, albeit she wouldn't come to London. I had to go to Heathrow Airport and meet her in the airport. She refused to leave international territory and come onto crown soil. But I went with a couple of Humanitad trustees. It was a fascinating meeting. The old woman, Shani Goodwin, who's long since passed, had maps and satellite images, and she was rolling out papers on this table and showing us the satellite images of the FEMA camps that were being built all around the United States, the biggest one being Fairbanks, Alaska, which I think could contain over 2 million prisoners. And she was explaining to me at that time the diabolical agenda of these full spectrum dominance globalists and this Draco machine, the Bush-Clinton clan, essentially at that time, what they were provisioning and planning for America and for the world. And I asked her, well, this is terrifying stuff, but what the devil do you need from me? And she said, you can get me into some of the royal houses in the Middle East, and I want to offer them the avenue or the pathway for financial redemption, to let them lead the Nisara Gesara event. And I'll be blunt, at that time I didn't have the nous. And I said no. I politely declined and said it'll get me shot on day one, which it would have almost certainly. And I said, it's just, I don't believe that the Islamic houses are sufficiently freed up within themselves to be able to take this kind of a U-turn, because they'll be moving directly against the Federal Reserve, the US Treasury, which is to say the Pentagon jackals at that time, which were very, very dark and very dangerous. And so I declined. Alas, I'll never know what would have happened had I used my diplomatic passage at that time to take Shani Goodwin, or the Dove of Oneness, to one of the royal houses of the Middle East to see if they would agree to leading the Global Economic, Social and Reform Act. But I don't think it would have happened. And I think my instinct was probably quite correct. To answer the question here of the chap who asked the question, is it a psyop? No, it definitely wasn't a psyop. I know that because I was with the Dove of Oneness and Shani Goodwin decades ago. So I know the sincerity of the author of Nisara. So I'm satisfied in my own mind that it was not a psyop. Was it co-opted along the way? The answer to that is almost certainly yes, in my view. Even a few days ago, I was in the Arizona desert with one of the principal figures of the global financial reset, and talking up, some of this stuff in a private meeting that we had. It's a very enigmatic subject, and I've got to the point where I suggest that we stop waiting for Nisara, Gesara, Trump, or Ezekiel's chariot to rescue us from ourselves. I am absolutely certain in my own mind that we now need to simply claim the jurisdiction, the I am, enact it, embody it, manifest it. Now, where we can do that collectively, we will be far, far better off, and the landing will be a much softer landing, so to speak. I'm about to launch a golden ticket. Please, anyone interested, keep watching my social media in the coming days, or connected to Lazarus, connected to Arise Guerrilla News, connected to New Earth Horizon, connected to me. I'm talking up a very, very big plan of action on the last day of atonement, where I believe we're about to see, we're about to lead the fray, put it that way, in laying claim to that jurisdiction and establishing full micronation status as a fellowship of man, which is to say men and women and children of the living soil. That's about to kick off, friends. I know it is. And I'm simply, in closing the answer to this important question about Nisara Gara, I will say Nisara Gara has become another archetypal icon in the pantheon of iconoclasticism, which is archetypal bullshit designed to harvest our attention and thereby render us mute, where we don't do anything because we believe it's being done for us. I hope that makes some sense.
So Srijana sends her love from Bali, and she sent us a video, a YouTube video that shows the nighttime map of levels of microwave radiation throughout the United States. Do you want me to show like maybe the first minute of that video?
I've got no problem with doing so.
Let me know if you can hear it once I play it. Can you see it?
Yeah.
All right, so I just wanted to document the continuing microwave pulses that we are getting hit with every day. And I'm noticing they are ramping up. On the 16th, they started at 9:11 at night until 9:11 in the morning. You see the pulse going from the east to the west coast. All right, boom, you see that? Those are NexRad stations. Each of those towers are 750 kilowatts, pumping out between 2.7 to 2.9 gigahertz in the microwave range. This is roughly the same frequency as your microwave oven, and it has the same cause and effect relationship. This was 12 hours long that they held this pulse while we slept.
So, yeah, do you have any comment on that? She was using the analogy of the boiling frog, and you know, what would be our defense on something like that?
Yeah. So it is what it is on the one hand, and it categorically isn't what it appears to be on the other hand. So it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. A classic answer that comes from me, and that's because I'm consistently walking the duende line, the indivisible line between the black and white on the checkerboard of the kingdom of the devil. So it's dangerous to talk in terms of sun, moon, Shiva, Shakti, good and evil. When we're trying to divine the truth of something, we need to place ourselves on the indivisible line, take that throne of self, actualized self, and bear witness, so that, again, we don't color what we're seeing with our own psycho-intellectual, psycho-emotional reactivity, which always discolors and destroys coherence. So that said, we are being bombarded with a plethora of satanic and highly weaponized electromagnetic frequency sets. No question about that. There is a $250 global infrastructure of antenna that have been situated over the last half a century, from standard basic telegraphy and copper wiring up to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9G, and then of course up to Skynet and thousands of satellites in the sky, also creating a kind of hybrid dragnet of weaponized frequencies, because everything issues frequencies. So even if it's not a transmitter or a capacitor or a transmission device, it's still something which is emitting frequencies for good or for ill. So we've got this false light matrix which is consolidated all around the world by this $250 apparatus. What's being pumped into that are by and large toxic, weaponized frequency sets designed to do a number of things, to create a dampening around the surface of the earth, to prevent reconvention of this earth with the solar codes. So as the sun is becoming enlightened, the most enlightened intelligence in our cosmos, our immediate cosmos, our solar system, the sun is expanding in its spiritual value, its hyperdimensional value. It is receiving the hyperdimensional code, so to speak. The voice of God speaks through the sun in that sense. And that the rays of the sun are intended to connect, as Rudolf Steiner educated us to decades ago, the entanglement of the rays of the sun with the rays of consciousness coming out of humanity, these fibrioles, these tentacles of imagining, of dreaming, of ideation that come off the human temple and connect with a ray of the sun. There's always a counterpoint ray of the sun that marries with our imagination and with our dreaming. And that's what creates the feedback loop of the Imagineering in the cosmic sense, and what manifests thereby as reality. So each of us are the progenitors of reality, just most of us don't know that most of the time because we've been degraded and diminished against ourselves. So this apparatus out there, using electromagnetic frequency interventions, essentially is designed to dampen our capacitance to dream wisely and to imagine higher outcomes and to manifest the kingdom of heaven on earth and to engage the vertical ascension event and so on and so forth. And that's just clever shit. Clever on the part of the Draco Reptilian, Zeta Reticulan, Thetan, Orion, Sabbatean mofos who are orchestrating their counterpoint game in this temporal world. The demon, the demiurge, the archons, the devil, Satan, however you want to put it. None of that matters. None of it matters. None of that apparatus matters, because the angelic quanta, which is to say the quintessence or the atom seed of the human, the Adamite, the angelic human, communicates through the quantum subspace, doesn't communicate through particles and waves. So electromagnetic frequency intervention will have net zero effect on an actualized, Christed human being. That is the rub for the devil roundabout now. Because no matter how it tries to pump synthetic molecules like H1N1 or HIV or any of these COVID-19, any graphene oxides, hydrogels, spike proteins, weaponized E. coli, all of these things are toys. They're trinkets of the devil trying to hack into the fabric of human soul. You cannot hack into the angelic, the fabric of the angelic. It is unhackable. It is gifted by virtue of our permission. So if I permission you to enter my DNA, you can enter my DNA. If I permission the devil or the demon into my life through alcohol or through drugs or through bad conduct or through psychotic behavior or through incoherence with my own foundational truth, I can go off the rail in 1,000 different ways as a human being. I can abdicate my morality, my conscience, my consciousness, my all of that stuff. I am the determiner of the outcome. But I will tell you this, that the electromagnetic frequency bit doesn't worry me, no matter how much of a toxic soup is orchestrated for us. I know that what it's actually doing ultimately is creating a backdrop against which we are forced to define our angelic template. So when you see, and that's jujitsu, that's martial arts at its finest, is simply taking what's coming at you and using the inertia of the force of that in order to determine the outcome. And you and I wish for the highest outcome.
All right, they're asking where to find that video. It's Brett Houston. I don't want to put the link because that's just going to show up on all of our pages. But yeah, Brett Houston.
Let's make Robin Lewis a little famous. You fake ass, we know you're with the pedos of the planet. In the first instance, Rob, you say you're, not you're with the pedos of the planet. Ooh, Rob, you need to just go back and revisit your syntax. Go bury your head back in your ass. In fact, I'll just invite my good friends here to eat you alive. So I suggest you remove yourself from here. People like you are not welcome in this temple. All right, Rob, bye now. Sorry, crack on, Christy.
I got a question from Dina. She's asking if we're stuck in some sort of time loop as the events recently that we experienced 4 years ago seem identical to now. So is this the real deal this time?
Sorry, what did we experience 4 years ago?
Is she referring to COVID? That would have been 4 years ago, right?
Okay, so that's a fair enough question. If that's the case, I'll try and answer it to the best of my ability. Yes, again, and no. It is a repercussion. It's an echo in the chamber of 4 years ago, almost certainly. The advisement that I've been given fairly recently from elements within the Vatican that I've spoken to, speaking about what is likely to happen with the disease X later this year in the swimming Olympics in the Seine River in Paris. I put that out there, and U.S. military and Interpol then interfaced with Scott McKay and myself after we broadcast that on his network. And good guys, so to speak, white hats, I guess, are on the case, seeing what they can do to derail that probability or possibility. So that's not a joke. There are forces and elements which are attempting to rewrite these storylines. Are they going to have an effect? I think yes and no. On the one hand, people who believe in that stuff, people who believe in government, people who believe in monotheistic religiosity and who give their life force and their God-given attention and their prayers, which is to say the projection of their fearfulness, if they put that into the wrong constructs, then they're going to be manifesting for themselves a very unique and unattractive journey in the days ahead. But those of us who are not, again, afraid of what we're seeing, because we recognize the part that we play in the manifesting of this stuff, and then withdraw our permissions and our attentions resultantly, then we start to place our God-given attention and our plasma and our life force into creativity, affirmation, and designing the kingdom of heaven on earth, beginning to ideate and imagine and dream wisely. And I think that there's such an incredible buildup now of inertia, courtesy of COVID 1.0, that COVID 2.0 categorically cannot gain traction. That's my view. Now, I may be wrong, and if I'm wrong, I'll be the first person to be throwing myself into the trenches at the front of COVID 2.0. But I just generally can't see it manifesting in that way. I think that jamming the grid in the United States of America, principally, and then the Commonwealth countries possibly, is a likely probability this year. And if the grid is jammed to force a catastrophic failure of the Anglo-American globalist economy, in order for them to try to foist their reset onto humanity, then I think that that's something we may have to contend with, all of us, because ports and airports will be closed, and militia and military will be released martial provision will be enacted, most likely, and idiot governments will click their heels to the parent corporation all around the world. Not all of them, mind you, but many of them will. And certainly Washington, D.C. At this stage is still ground central, is ground zero of this Saturnian logic, because it is the epicenter of the global war machine, which imposes itself and enforces the blood economy. So it's a complex scenario, but I personally do not think that COVID 2.0, if it is enacted, is going to succeed at all.
Okay, we have this question coming in from Danny. Can you confirm Russell J. Gould claims of the powers that be are to expire all birth certificate citizens? I haven't heard that.
Brother Sacha, can you confirm Russell J. Gould's claims of the powers that be are to expire all birth certificate citizens? Fiction destroying fiction, as he says. Well, I spoke to Russell J. Gould last week. I was on the road and we had a bit of a catch up, and I intend to speak to him again in the next few days, directly connected to the 40th Day of Atonement, because I'm asking Russell J. Gould, in his capacity as U.S. Postmaster General and Chief Judge of the World and Commander-in-Chief and all of that, blah, blah. In his capacity of all of that paraphernalia, are going to be asking him if he will notarize or certify certain moves that we're making. Because I love Russell, know him, I love him, and I think that his shtick is very relevant and very appropriate. I'm not one of those who thinks it's the be all and end all, because I don't. I don't think it's the be all and end all. I don't think that Uniform Commercial Code is the be all and end all. I don't think that the claim of life is the be all and end all. I don't believe that simply untethering yourself from the IRS and giving notice to Washington is the be all and end all. I think the be all and end all is the I am. The collective I am will be that much more powerful. And so personally, I look forward to a world where we are no longer needing to play into kings and queens, empires, chief judges, and commanders in chief, and so on. But so long as we are, then credit where credit's due. Russell J. Gould did mail himself to the Vatican with a fucking postage stamp. Okay? He did do that 20 years ago, and I salute that man. Besides, he's a brother of mine and a beloved friend. So I love him from that perspective, which is a higher perspective than whether he's the commander-in-chief or not. But as I've said before, the last day of my last tour in 2021, when I got off stage in Tampa, in Florida, I was apprehended by ranking military in uniform at that time, who wanted to know from me if I knew who their commander-in-chief was. And I said, Donald Trump, is that what you're asking me to say? And they said, nope, Russell J. Gould. And that was ranking military in uniform. And that was 3 years ago. High ranking. This is not middling and low ranking. And that I was blown away by that. Of course, the first thing I did was phone up Russell. Said, Russell, what the fuck? I've just had ranking military in uniform apprehend me backstage, sit me down, and tell me that you are their commander-in-chief. And he just poo-pooed that and said, well, I've been telling you, Stone. There's no surprises there. But, it's a very enigmatic subject and a very enigmatic story, to be sure.
Sorry.
Oh, just let me do the buttons.
So Nice from United States is asking about El Salvador and how it went from being highly dangerous to relatively safe due to the actions of those in power. I'm assuming using Bitcoin as a currency for one, Do you see the same thing coming to Mexico? And if so, what timeline do you foresee for that? It's a two-part.
Great question. Great question. So yes, I do see a similar phenomenon occurring in Mexico, because Mexico is a very enlightened country. Once you've surgically removed the rat lines of the CIA and the cartels, and again, you know what the downside of the cartels is connected just to the deep state shenanigans of the globalists, and as they've been playing on the Mexico as a playground, and at the same time hijacking Mexico, you know, and keeping it somewhat in poverty and marginalized. So Mexico is reclaiming Mexico, and there are profoundly intelligent and enlightened people in Mexican culture, politically, intellectually, academically, who have consolidated themselves sufficiently now to be able to reclaim Mexico from the globalist Sabbatean agenda. That's underway, to be sure. Having said that, Mexico right now is involved in an internecine kind of in-house fighting and a tug of war to see if the globalist man gets in or the other force power gets in. We kind of know who's going to get in, and ultimately it's going to be very good for Mexico, is my belief. And I'm pretty close to very powerful elements in Mexico in the military intelligence and I don't want to say government sector, but the high-end political sector, let me put it that way. So I'm satisfied that Mexico is the best place in the world for people to be. That's why I've situated the New Earth Sanctuary there. That's why I put up an unbearable struggle in the last 2 years to force my agenda, my will through, after dealing with a lot of shit on the ground in Mexico for 18 months and weeding out a lot of shit in our own garden. To be able to progress the great vision of the New Earth Sanctuary. It's moving ahead now at great speed, and I'm very excited about that. And I'm going to be making, again, the last day of my social tour here in America, I'm going to be announcing the Golden Ticket, which is connected to twinning what we're doing in Mexico to the United States of America, albeit sovereign jurisdiction. So exciting stuff that is upcoming vis-a-vis that. To answer the question on El Salvador, let me just say I'm not a political pundit. There are so many people out there who are far better than I am at it, but I will say, so I can't speak to El Salvador particularly, but I can say that yes, the adoption of Bitcoin as a de facto currency was an incredibly smart move in my view, and yes, is the signature to why we're seeing an emancipation in that part of the world.
Okay, and Argentina, soon to be Argentina, right?
Yeah.
So the second part of her question was, is there an opportunity for us, the inner circle, to sell some of your awesome New Earth products to make money? Like, I'm assuming she's asking affiliate programs.
That's very kind. I'm not sure. I think, did you say products?
Yeah, she says New Earth products. So I think she means.
Right. Okay, good. So we don't have New Earth products per se outside of the New Earth Pharmacy and the Spike or the Spike Turbo microbiological formulas that we've been promoting to get out there in order to deal essentially to address transfection and Vax injury. And I've spoken about that sufficiently. I'm not going to go into it here. We'll be running a little spot at the end of this Q&A session. We'll be running a little New Earth Pharmacy spot there. But I'm not particularly promoting people. I think we're launching an affiliate scheme, I think next week or the week after. So keep your eyes tuned on that, or go to New Earth or the New Earth Pharmacy.com. If there's a slide here readily available, Christy, by all means put it up, but you can go to the New Earth Pharmacy with an F for fuck you, Schwab.com, and you can check it out there. So I'm not actively trying to get people to buy or promote products, because that's not what drives us. What we're doing, what I'm doing, is slowly but surely developing technologies, innovations, formulas, that we will be rolling out amongst our own networks, our own movements, so to speak, in order to give us what we need to step away fully from Sodom and Gomorrah. So that's all I'm concerned about, is giving an exit strategy this year in black and white and in Technicolor to people, especially of Middle America, because America is the most weaponized country on earth and the most important, because the whole world follows what happens in Middle America, which is why my conversation on my social tour right now, whether I'm meeting with members of, again, political activist circles, or I'm meeting with New Earthers, or meeting with people more in the consciousness arena, or people more in the kind of academic inquiry arena, like the Lazarus membership. I'm having this conversation about America and about how America is being set up for a fall. You've been set up as the fall guy. And I'm not falling victim to that. I'm not going to fall into that. I see how the globalists have turned America into this weaponized culture on the outside, which has marauded its way around the world, bullying countries up until fairly recently. Now, America is just represented by a gibbering sock puppet in Washington that the whole world is lampooning and howling with laughter at. But in a sense, it set America up for a fall, for a huge fall. And the tanking of the US dollar and the US economy is intended to bring about a massive civil war, or at least unrest, disobedience, and catastrophic failure of the social ecology and the social economy. What's that going to do? That's going to implode much of the world, because America is the world. The world is America. America, Central, Middle America is all of humanity at the genetic level, at this cultural level, at the intellectual level, at the emotional level. We are bonded to Middle America. Jews, Muslims, Christians, Shintos, Confucianists, Buddhists alike, animists, we are all connected to the pulse of Middle America. And if we don't think we are, we're brain dead. So what happens to Middle America in that sense has a repercussion and a ramification for the entire world. So I am putting myself bodily with my brothers and sisters and fellows in Middle America. Because when the flight from Sodom and Gomorrah happens, it is not about fleeing America and demonizing America and allowing America to fall. It's about fleeing the east and west coast of America. It's about fleeing San Francisco, San Diego, Los Angeles, Manhattan, New York, Chicago, these strongholds of evil, of absolute fentanyl, infiltrated inner city, toxic social ecologies that are so rank, so inverted, they've lost to themselves. The intellectual classes of these cities are the ones that want transsexuals educating your children in primary school. They want drag queens hanging upside down, from classrooms, reciting the Quran or whatever. It's insane. And so the liberal intellectual libtard element of the United States has become the real toxin, the real poison. And they're governing election processes. They're governing the financial services. They're governing the bureaucracy and the technocracy that rules Middle America in the digital spheres. But Middle America is what I'm touching base with right now. Veterans, farmers, mothers, families, providers, beautiful people, good humans, Adamites, my people. So yeah, there's a distinction. And when the rest of the world is being now talked up and being turning its guns on America and wanting America to fall, that is the greatest folly of all. So for me, the New Earth Project, the New Earth Initiative, the New Earth Sanctuary, the New Earth Nation is now going to be birthed in the heartland of America, and we'll be standing sentinel with our fellows in Middle America as Babylon falls. Because it's the cities that need to fall, not the countryside. Middle America is vast. I drove for 5 hours this morning, 5 hours non-stop. I didn't see anything or anyone. It was just driving through the most unbelievably beautiful countryside. I did 8 hours yesterday, or 7 hours yesterday, and the day before we did 5 hours. I drove all the way through the Hopi lands for the 3 days before that. I've driven thousands of miles of America in the last 10 days alone, and all I'm seeing is bounty. I'm seeing the most beautiful countryside, and it's uncontaminated, it's fertile, it's there, it's waiting for the return of the angelics, of the return of the living men and women of the living soil. That's all we need to do, friends, is leave the citadel and return to the living soil. Take it back, take it back.
A couple of questions coming in the chat. How do we become leaders to peace? Pray to Vishnu, create a new world with the help of what? Whites, grays, blues, the help of who?
The first part of the question was, how do we become what?
How do we become leaders to peace?
Oh, got it. Pray to Vishnu. Well, you could pray to Vishnu if you like. You won't find me doing that, but it's a fair question. I offer you this. I offer you that. You can remove the comment now, Christy. I offer you this. This is the blue corn of the Hopi, the First Nation tribe of the Hopi. Okay, I was blessed to spend a matter of days with, a few days with, in the desert in their Mesa 1 and Mesa 2 in Arizona in the course of the last week. Learning from them, their Hopi prophecies have predicted all of what we've seen in recent generations and centuries. This to me is the value right here, right here. Going back to the primal Aboriginal First Nation innocence. Again, it's about the reconvention of the relationship between the sons and daughters of God and the earth, the living sons and daughters of God, the living men and women of the living soil, and the living soil itself. That's the relationship that needs to reconvene. So where your federal government has stolen the land from you and pretends at owning the land, we were in an incredibly beautiful spot in outside Sedona. I was with Randall Carlson and a group. I can't remember exactly what we were doing. We were being taken to see some sacred springs and what used to be ancient padding ground of the Hopi. And we arrive at this place, and every 20 yards, and heading to the Grand Canyon, actually, every 20 yards is another little sign. This is right out in the desert. Federal property, federal government owns the. No, the federal government doesn't own the property. The federal government stole the land. The federal government doesn't exist. It's a fiction. It's an idea. It's a bad idea. But there's little signs in the desert telling you where you can walk and where your dog can shit. In point of fact, we were out in the desert visiting one of the ancient pueblos of the Hopi that's 1,000 years old, literally desert, and a couple of old white guys in uniform on Hopi reservation land. And these white guys were the guardians of this ancient pueblo of the Hopi. And we park the car up, and we get out, and I'm with little Dante. My little dog was like 4 inches long. And immediately these old guys start yelling at us, is that your dog? Is that your dog? Pick the dog up, I said, we're in the middle of the fucking desert. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Pick your dog up. You have to carry your dog. How insane has this government become? So we're seeing these stark signs everywhere about the dystopia of government overreach, where it's just reached this point where the bureaucrats, the technocrats sit around scratching their nuts and writing more and more statutes and codes every day because they've got nothing else to do, because they're mundane human beings or subhumans in the main who have no creative or affirmative pulse in their own beings. So they sit around on taxpayers' coin dreaming up codes and statutes to warrant their fucking existence. And that's all they do. That's all they do. And they've got to. It's rather like going into the supermarkets, and every 6 months they've moved that shelf to there and they moved the supermarket around. Why? It was perfectly good having the cabbages over there and having the dairy products over there. But every 6 months, the people working in the supermarket have to earn their pay. And so they move things around, they move objects around. That's what humans do when they're mundane. They simply move objects around and expect to get paid for doing that. So that's what a technocracy and a bureaucracy is and does, nothing else. They enact insane statutes dreamt up by insane people, legislators who themselves have to warrant their pensions. So they've got to busy themselves up. And this is the problem with government. It's a self-fulfilling, self-aggregating problem. It compounds itself cyclically until it falls over and crashes on the ground, and then it reinvents itself through another election cycle. So you and I have to stop participating in that insane theater. And that's really what it comes down to.
There was a beautiful note from Lazarus member Maria, who said, I was adopted by a Hopi family when I was 20 and blessed to have had their influence in my otherwise traumatic life. Since my Hopi dad died in 2006, I haven't returned to the mesas. But hearing your stories and seeing your tears around the transitioning of the Hopi people in this shift time triggered my tears and a deep longing to return now at 51, to listen to the ancestors and make gratitude offerings to that sacred land. And she's asking if you would consider bringing a small group with you to the mesas when you return.
Yeah, well, thank you for those words. I appreciate those words. It is deeply dispiriting and saddening to visit the mesas. I mean, you're talking about destitution and poverty on an unheralded scale from, coming from a place like Sedona. And I'll relay one little story here, that my beloved friend Roberto, an elder who lives in Sedona, one of my favorite human beings on the planet, and I was with him last week, and I was a little bit freaked out because I'd been to Sedona a couple of months ago to do a Hopi retreat, and I'd loved my meeting with the Hopi. We spent a few days together, and it was a very well-attended retreat. It was very beautiful and very powerful. But I was left visiting Sedona for that week. I was left feeling this really weird feeling. And so I went back to Sedona last week, and I'm there doing the Cosmic Origins event with William Henry, Freddie Silver, Martin Gray, and Randall Carlson. And so I'm doing that event with the guys there, which was great fun. But I'm again in Sedona, and I'm driving around Sedona, and I'm reading the plasma, so to speak, the energetics of the people. And I'm seeing a zombie class of libtard. I'm seeing liberal intellectual zombies bumping into each other in Whole Foods. A kind of vicious reactivity to you if you put your foot in the wrong place, or if you don't correspond or cohere to their logic, or if you drift in the traffic for a millisecond, or there's a certain kind of, I don't know what it is, but it was a false light matrix that has clutched the people, and they kind of shuffled around. I'm speaking generally here, generically. So apologies to those good people of Sedona, okay? And there's many of them who are there and are emancipated, but they'll be the first to agree with me that Sedona is in the clutch of a community of unconscious people who think that they're conscious and who move around crystals and the red rocks, saying the right thing, doing the right genuflections, but actually embodying lost souls. So there's this awful, spooky sense of disembodied, spiritless people masquerading as being a conscious community. Well, that's clear to me. That's crystal clear to me. And I asked my friend Roberto, who's lived there for 40 odd years, and I asked him the question. I said, Roberto, you've got, over coffee in the morning, I said, you've got to help me. I said, is it just me? I'm seeing a false light matrix that is so locked into the people in Sedona, this powerful, this beautiful place, so alive with paramagnetic and dielectric energy, but yet this is a place of lost souls. He said, you're absolutely bang on. He said, we can see that. Those of us who have the eyes to see can see it. And what he said was, you need to remember something, Sacha, that we are all uninvited guests or visitors here. And boom, I got it. In one instant, I totally understood what he said and what he meant. And that was correct. Sedona is Hopi land. It's stolen land. It's immensely powerful ceremonial land. The crystal core, the silica, the paramagnetic and telluric forces in Sedona with the red rocks is so immensely accelerated that it creates an augmentation. It enhances and magnifies the forces of light and shade. And so the false light matrix that emerges there is 10 times stronger than what you're going to find in Wisconsin or in Wyoming or in Milwaukee. And that's palpable. And it's because the people there are on ceremonial ground, which was stolen, pretending it's theirs. And that led me to then consider how the Hopi need to be invited back to Sedona to a major ceremonial event where they absolve and forgive the theft, the heist by the whiteskins, by our forebears. And then once we have asked for forgiveness and they have granted forgiveness in that ceremonial enactment, they then gift back to us the homes and the farms that whiteskins have. Because the whiteskins there today weren't the thieves. It was their grandfathers and great-grandfathers. So once that event is done, then all that remains is that the federal government stolen land needs to be returned to the First Nation peoples, to the Hopi, in this case, in Arizona, and the Navajo and others. So that's the point. Federal government land is stolen land. It's heisted land now in the containment and ownership of a corporation essentially owned by the Crown of England and the Vatican. Okay, it's an asset. It's a fucking asset with trillions of dollars worth of mineral resources that are being banked, securitized as a collateral against bonds that are being issued, traded all around the world by these central Saturnian banksters. And that needs to end. So I'm sorry to have got so abstruse in this particular subject, except to say that I now see clearly what needs to happen. This absolution redemption event is not about a Nisara Gara and whether or not Donald Trump comes in and signs a piece of paper. It's about whether you and I, friends, have what it takes to stand up and listen to the blood song of our ancestors and listen to the blood song coming out of the Hopi and the Navajo and the Cherokee and the Anishinaabe and the Mayans. 740 tribes, First Nation tribes all around North America that were ejected from their homes and then sequestered into shitty little clumps of desert and given reservations. And all of the other land in America that I've been driving through for the last 10 days, thousands of kilometers, all federally owned, right? Really? Come now. If that's not a heist, I don't know what is.
Yeah, in the links, I in the comment section, I posted a link to the virtual Sedona event that you were just at, if anyone's interested in watching that. And then also a link to become a Lazarus member if anyone wants to watch the rest of the symposium that we're starting in about 20 minutes. You can do that and get the link. But I wanted to post, see this coming in, it says, Sacha, any suggestions for Australians opposing this proposed digital ID? Aussies do not want a digital ID.
Okay, so thanks. You can unhook that. So I can only repeat what I've been saying for years, and I don't mean just the opportunistic pundit 4 years of COVID. I've been doing this a lot longer than that, and go back to 2012. I think when I first started speaking publicly about these things, about the travesty, the calamity of government, of this fiction of power and dominion that's out there that we are so apparently terrified by. Why are you afraid of it? You have to ask yourself, why are you so fucking afraid? Why are you so afraid of this thing called government? Are you able to rid yourself of the generational fear complex that echoes in your blood? Get to work on that right now. Release yourself from your generational ancestral trauma of being butchered by kings and emperors and bad popes. Get over it. Absolve. Stop. Take 2 weeks off. Hire a Harley Davidson. Go drive into the desert. Sit with yourself. Ask yourself why you continue to take the knee to Caesar. Ask yourself why you continue to genuflect and offer up fetid prayers to some ghost. You're not in honorable convention with God. You're not entitled to be offering up gibbering prayers if all they are is an appeal to make your life easier, to give you something that you haven't earned. Come now, grow up, put away childish things, get into convention with God and listen to the living gospel, which urges you to stand, drop your testicles if you're a man, walk out your front door, own the day, seize the day, lay claim to your life and to that of your family, and protect and serve and be honorable, conduct right action, follow the dictate of your conscience. Do not tolerate petty tyranny. Do not tolerate petty tyrants. Not in McDonald's, not in Starbucks, not in Whole Foods, not in Costco. Don't tolerate petty tyranny anywhere that you find it. Slay it. Do not fill out forms with block black capital letters. Stop doing it. Throw away all black pens. Pick up a blue pen or red pen and start to put your mark where your mark will be honored and not securitized and monetized by satanic forces operating under the aegis of your municipal or federal authorities. They're not your authorities. They're goddamn interloper. Stop filling out the forms with the block black capital letters. Stop paying personal income taxes. Pay your merchant taxes. Pay your business taxes. You get fleeced with every fucking thing you buy anyway. There's 47 invisible taxes attributed to a goddamn apple when you're buying it nowadays, because it comes from Madagascar, apparently. So stop offering yourself up for sacrifice. Your time, your motion, your coin. That's my point. And step into foundational honor with self, relationship with self, and lay claim to this world, and then start to participate in forging this world into something worthy and veritable. All of us need to be doing that. All of us need to be doing that. So it's not difficult to redact, rescind, revoke, retract. Go right now and go and spend 10 minutes with a dictionary. Redact, rescind, revoke, retract. The 4 R's. That I've come up with this lately in the last couple of years as being the seminal piece in trying to educate people about consciousness in action or about claiming sovereign jurisdiction. Redact, rescind, revoke, retract. Learn what those words mean. And then the next time you're met by a petty tyrant or an official, or by somebody wearing a costume or hiding behind a badge or an oath of office, and no disregard to good people out there who do wear costumes and swear oaths and hold up badges. The good ones will be the first again to agree with me. They know it's become rank evil. The corruption is off the chart. In Sedona, where I was last week, connected to this false light matrix is the corruption of the court system out there and the police. This is endemic and well known to the people there. The police are stalking and terrorizing members of the community. And this is de rigueur. This is happening constantly. So something needs to shift. But we need to acknowledge that there are ancient storylines that need to be absolved again. And we've come to that point where it's not just good enough it's not just good enough to take care of ourselves in the now. We have to also look back and see the chronology of history and the part that our ancestors played, in a sense, and to reckon with that and to absolve that and redeem that. That for me is ultimately where we're headed. Christy, I'm just going to open up one slide I want to open up here. Give me a second to do it. Hang on, because I want this to underscore. I want this to underscore something. There we go. Okie dokie. So let me see. I'm going to share my screen here. Share screen window. This one. Okay. You should be able to see this. So this here. This is the story. This is the piece. So that's the piece there. That's a illustration done by Christy and Eloy on our team, and that's an important piece. That image is what I asked them to construct, and they did a few, and that's the perfect one. Everyone sees that, and you know it speaks volumes. But it's about the reconvention of the ancestral blood song. It's about bringing back the circle of humanity and standing in a circle, holding hands, connecting to fire ceremony, and consulting the grandmothers, consulting the eternal mother in our spirit, jointly and severally, to feminize and harmonize our world from the butchery and the brutality of thousands of years of dominion by angry, jealous gods and bearded creatures hovering in the archonic realms, the Poseidons, Zeus, the old Yahweh and Jehovah, the angry, jealous gods who didn't serve the angelic humans ever, but ensured the parasite wheel and complex and harvest of humanity, masquerading as being our saviors, masquerading as being our Father. Nothing could be further from the truth. We need to now, in that sense, step up within ourselves and become the archetypal saviors. And that is the second coming. And that was also the message of the Master from Nazareth. In any event, I think that's an important piece. And whilst we're on that subject, I'll just go to another slide on here. Just part of my presentation lately is reminding folks that when you choose to step into your own jurisdiction and enact, embody, and manifest, you can just get on and do it. We did this with the International Tribunal for Natural Justice, which we formed in 2015. Why? Because we said so. That's why. Because we didn't ask for permission. You think if I'd asked the British Crown if I could set up an international law court to prosecute them for trafficking, their role in hegemony and slaughter of innocents, do you think they'd give permission? Do you think Washington will give permission? And idiot people come to me and say, well, why can't we see the ITNJ registered at the United Nations? I said, well, go figure. Go figure why it's not registered at the fucking United Nations. Obviously, it's not registered at the UN. The UN is the goddamn problem. But I'll tell you what, that is a court de facto, de jure, with justices, bishops, intelligence chiefs, former secretaries of state, powerful people coming in, presiding, giving testimony. G. Edward Griffin, arch hero. Del Bigtree, arch hero. Those are two of our commissioners. Jim Humble, hero. R.I.P. Robert David Steele. Dr. Robert O. Young, they're trying to put him behind bars right now for saving thousands of lives from terminal cancers. And so it goes on. We'll prevail. And our next Judicial Commission of Inquiry will be the restoration of the ancestral blood song, meaning to say it'll be connected to the doctrines of discovery, the Vatican doctrines of discovery. And that's the next Judicial Commission of Inquiry, which will be launching later this year by the grace of God. I think we're running now pretty much out of time. Christy, it's your call.
Yeah, I wanted to just read one note that came in from Nisabella. She says, a white buffalo, let me show this. A white buffalo has been born 4/25/24 in Kansas. For those who don't know the prophecy of the white buffalo woman, it is the most significant prophecy of the Lakota people. Others, like Comanche and Navajo, also see it as a sign of things changing in the world and better times coming. Even the National Bison Association says that it is indeed a rare event, about 1 in 10 million chance, a symbol of hope and honoring that which is sacred. This is a reminder to pray and remember your relations.
Very good. Thank you. Beautiful comments and perfect comment to close on. Christy, what I do want to do is quickly, whilst I can, before we close the room to the public at large, just want to speak a little to this here. This is October 10th to the 20th. Please go to sashastone.com if you wish to. Myself and Dave Emery are doing a 10-day retreat, going from Greece through the Mediterranean to Turkey and Egypt. Round trip: Athens, Alexandria, Egypt, Limassol, Antalya, Kos, Izmir, Istanbul, and Mykonos. And in those 10 days on board the ship, we're going to be mapping the 954 billion years in 10 days, doing our best, should I say. So yeah, please keep an eye out for that, friends. A lot of people have been asking about that. That's something we'll start doing promotions on in the next few days. All right, Christy, that's pretty much it.
Okay, we can go ahead and start with the segments. I'll maybe just start the beginning of this before I close to everyone, because there is a link that I want to put for a tour that Randall's putting together that we speak upon in this segment. So it makes sense to leave it open for just a couple minutes. And I think he said there were a few places left.
Very good.
Did you?
Okay.
You want to? Well, I can play the commercial first, and then I can go into Randall.
By all means, do that, and then play Randall's piece, and I'll be hovering around in the green room for the duration in any event. Friends, thank you so much for joining us on the Q&A. I see the audience has been growing and growing. Before you sign off there, Christy, because a couple more minutes, I just want to have a quick look, if you don't mind, at some of these comments. I haven't had a chance to look myself. Very good. Lovely. All speaking to this, all speaking. I miss so much Robert David Steele, says Bren Helen. So do I, Bren. Be sure of that. So do I. Okay, beautiful comments coming in, friends. I think I might spend the next half hour ruminating on some of them. So thank you so very much for joining this Q&A. Really appreciate it. And Christy, over to you. Take it away.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. See you next time.
At New Earth Pharmacy, we firmly believe in the transformative power of naturally organic innovation to positively impact lives. The dedicated team of New Earth Pharmacy has successfully created an extraordinary and groundbreaking brand. We aim to reduce reliance on the pharmaceutical industry and its intermediaries, giving people the power to write their own wellness script. We're pioneering a movement that empowers individuals to take control of their well-being. Our team and advisory committee have worked long hours, ensuring that our products incorporate the best opportunity for full-spectrum immune support. Every step has been a carefully choreographed chain of events leading up to our launch. By harnessing the proteins derived from organically raised hens, we offer a long-awaited solution for those who have felt neglected by the traditional medical community. Our endeavor brings unprecedented innovation like nothing the world has seen before. New Earth Spike and New Earth Spike Turbo uses patent-pending egg protein technology to support the body's ability to defend against symptoms related to spike protein exposure. The New Earth Pharmacy is pleased to present our patent-pending Y-Mino supplement, the New Earth Spike and New Earth Spike Turbo. Together, we are igniting a revolution. Welcome to a new era of wellness. Welcome to New Earth Pharmacy.
Lazarus, what a delight for me today. Well, I say delight. I mean, I've driven 8 hours to get here to a place called Loveland, Colorado. I'm midpoint on this tour. Actually, I'm the third of the way through it. And I'm just so thrilled to be speaking to one of the world's greatest sages, one of the world's greatest polymaths. The subject today, Earth's cosmic legacy, redefining our past and future. You might have guessed it, the man who looks like Zeus and or Poseidon and or God, come to think of it, Randall Carlson, the most remarkable man. I spent some time with him, and very, very happily so, in Sedona a number of days ago with his very beautiful family. And we were doing the cosmic origins of some various discourses and engaging with some Hopi messengers, and just generally with William Henry and Freddie Silver and Martin Gray, having a bit of fun over a few days. I'm very, very happy that he acknowledged my genuflection in coming forth onto the Lazarus Symposium at such short notice. Normally we give 2 or 3 months notice, but Randy was very gracious to say that as soon as he got home, I could bring him on for this next upcoming Lazarus Symposium. And I can tell you that he stands out as a pioneering researcher and speaker, as many of you know. Fairly recently came to some real notoriety with the Joe Rogan broadcast, which reached about 9/10 of the world's population, I think. I mean, just insane viewership, but quite rightly so. With his groundbreaking work spanning ancient history, geology, and climate science, amongst other things. His critical examination of cosmic events, the carbon cycle, and human prehistory merges scientific accuracy with an intricate understanding of the cosmos, interconnectedness of the cosmos. And through his engaging writings and the captivating Cosmographia podcast series, he invites us to question pretty much all mainstream narratives. And he offers a very dynamic and fresh perspective on environmental history and our civilization's origins, emphasizing the need to reconsider our past's influence on our future. He's also very actively engaged in promulgating breakthrough innovative technologies, which will certainly render this world a heaven on earth. Randall Carlson, an absolute delight. Thank you for joining us on Lazarus Symposium.
Gosh, my heart is just beating. What an introduction. I'm feeling kind of big-headed and humbled at the same time.
Well, very, very happy to see you, and thank you for joining at such short notice. Really grateful to you for this. And, you know, you're going to, on the Missoula Floodlands tour, I understand that you're planning a trip to am I pronouncing that correctly? Missoula Floodlands.
Missoula.